Hell Week is just the Navy SEALs training that lasts a week, where you run and swim and do all kinds of stuff on little sleep, and it's just very hard. It's just a very hard week where most people quit a few days in. Team 6 looks for not only people, they look for people that take care of their team mates while also doing their job and being encouragers. The first thing that you need to do, or address negativity head on. No beating around the bush, no letting it slide, and no hiding away from what we need to do to neutralize the negativity. To me, Love Tough, I kind of referred it back to toughness last year, where you have to be tough enough to tell each other how it is. You gotta be tough enough to let people know when they're not doing something right and that they could be doing it better, but you have to do it in a way. This is the love part, where you're coming from a caring standpoint and making sure that they know that, and that's how
just people
they're
that
gonna
care about each other, and you can have that separate
the
or
information and
collectively
take it
as being a team,
positively or negatively.
as defined in the book.
LOSS stands for Learning Opportunity Stay Strong, and it's just
like
an
you have to
acronym slash
push
tactic
each other
to
to work for each other.
remain optimistic
Just-
about situations, whether they're
You have to have that competitive
challenging,
each other,
difficult,
and
exciting.
it helps you bring
Just
out
making
the
sure you
best
stay grounded, and that
um,
whatever happens with
in each other.
the thing that you're facing, that
feel mad,
there's something
etc.
learned. Positive conflict is important, because without positive conflict, there is no real communication to make things that could be better progress. It just kind of makes a stagnant thing, where people on the team just keep in this routine, and if no one comes to them and say, hey, what you're doing isn't working, then you just lose out. Like, it's missed opportunities to make yourself or team better. People don't communicate because, or he describes it as, everyone has a desire to be liked. That's how Gordon describes the lack of communication as people just desire to be liked, and worried about if they say this one thing, this person's going to see them a certain way, not like them, and or not want to be their friend, talk to them. And I think people are just afraid of that. My one word would be humble. I think so many more things come to you when you're humble about what you can or can't do. Just being humble in all the success or failure that you see. I think there's so many nuances of team, but for me, team just means people working together to achieve a common goal. The reason I participate and compete is because I just love to perform. My sheer joy. I just really love performing, and giving the kids or children or anyone who's watching something to look forward to, something to be excited about, something to be like, oh my gosh, like, this is so cool. Like, I really love watching these person perform. So just my love to entertain people. That's why I compete. I think we have most of these characteristics, but I mean, from what I can tell, we definitely have a vision, purpose and stuff, but where we're really lacking is communication, connection, and commitment. I mean, sure, there are levels of that in some but not in all ways. I think communication with each other, communication with staff, faculty, could just be more like talking about having honest conversations with each other. And I think that every time we decide not to have an honest conversation with each other, we are allowing ourselves to have missed opportunities to improve together. In my opinion, I guess positive teams have a competitive advantage because I guess I would kind of foil positive with optimistic. It's kind of the fight for every 10th in my eyes. The meet's not over until it's over. You still have the chance to win, even if it's the last person up on the last event. And then this team is special because this is how I describe it often, but I think this team has been so successful because it's just the right people coming here at the right time. And we separate ourselves from other teams in the country because I think because we are so small, it allows us to have a more common goal. Like teams of 20, I think it would just be hard to get harder to get everyone on board. But I think we're special because each of us are just, I think we just carry this presence of just being very kind. A lot of teams, or in my opinion, I guess, again, legacy programs are just kind of used to being legacy programs and being known and just kind of walking in and expecting things. And I think our team is very good about if there are staff at a venue, interacting with them, saying thank you, how's your day, and making sure that we're very personable as opposed to just kind of walking in and competing. We make sure that we have an impact on people behind the scenes that people don't even see. Character, teamwork, and excellence means to me just exactly what it says. I mean, since being a recruit, it's something that we've heard, and I don't think, I know individually these words mean certain things, but I think collectively it means just what we are. It means kind of the steady progression that we're making. Like these 3 words are the building blocks to creating a legacy program. So that's just kind of how I see it. Like when I hear, I'm just like, those are fundamentals of becoming a legacy program, basically. What can we think, say, and do to elevate our culture? Thoughts, I just try to share thoughts, like when I have, like, if there's something, like I say things when I see them for the most part, not all the time. It could always be something that improves, but just using the language like we're there already, not to even rush the process, but using the language like, oh yeah, like national championship ready, just stuff like that. Just, I think thoughts and sayings are pretty much the same thing. I mean, no one really hears your individual thoughts, but I mean, same thing. And what can we do to improve our culture? I mean, I think that we're already doing pretty much everything. I mean, even in the school, like, people just know that we're just a very committed team. And I just think continuing to do what we do. Our shared vision is just to be great, just to do better than we did before. Just personally, it was so satisfying to see everyone so shaken by us being in the Final Four when we knew we'd be there the whole time. And it's just, I think our shared vision is to be like, to have the world be like, whoa, Denver, who is that? Yeah, just like breaking the norms, continuing on this path that is unorthodox for us to be in these very high level meets and doing very well. So just continuing to be successful no matter who we're competing against, whether it's, I don't know, Southern Utah or Oklahoma, like two ends of the spectrum. I think our shared vision is to do well and excel. That should be do well and excel. I should write that in a book. And our greater purpose is just, for me, my take on our greater purpose is making the path for the people that are going to come after us and making sure we're making everyone that came before us proud. All the alums, just, I know they're proud. I've seen it, heard it on things, but also making this place for me an even better place for recruits in the future to be, as a school in general, not even in a competition standpoint, but just our programs, making it good for all the people that hopefully will want to come here in the future. I think our team stays positive during adversity by just putting our heads down and like getting to work. We know it's not really something that we discuss that we're necessarily going through adversity or challenges, but everyone feels it, and we just automatically work harder because we know that this is going to be a hill that we're going to have to jump over. How we stay positive moving forward, I think just how he talks about in the book, we just need to have those hard conversations, and I think it would help us face the reality of the situation if we have these, when we do face challenges and adversity, maybe incorporating these discussions about what is not necessarily going wrong, but like what is what do you call it? What is proving itself to be a challenge at the moment? And I think if we talk about that and we have a discussion, then everyone will be on board. I mean, sometimes people are really into their work and you don't see challenges for another person. I think if we unify and work hard together, then that would help us stay positive. I show my teammates I believe in them. I just flat out tell them. Yeah, I mean, there's not much to that one, but what vitamin C do you bring to the team? I'd like to think that I just work hard. I mean, I don't feel like there are very many days when I come in and I just don't put any effort. Like I am always, at least my perception of it, I may be wrong, but I try to always make something great that day. I try to put myself in a competition mindset, and I don't always share that with the team, but when I am practicing, I try to do things like I want to compete them, or at least like if I push myself to do something different to make that skill better and it's wrong, that's okay. But I just, if I was doing a front aerial on beam, I'd really try to straighten my knees, and sure, I might fall on it, but at least I made an effort to make it how I want it to be. I think our challenges on the team I think it's also an opportunity and a challenge that we did so well last year. I feel like there's going to be a lot of pressure on us to do or produce the same results as last year, which is great. It can also be an opportunity that we get the chance to prove ourselves yet again and show people that we're actually a great team and we just didn't get lucky. Challenges are going to be, there's so many people on the team, and that's also an opportunity. Like, all these people have opportunities to fight for a spot, and we have options to make sure that our lineups are the best that they can possibly be. But that's also going to be a challenge for each individual person, to making sure that if you're in the lineup that you're doing your job well, and if you're not in the lineup that you're working to get in the lineup, or pushing the people in the lineup to get better, and it's just kind of like a chain reaction. Challenges are going to be the new coaching staff. I didn't think it would be as hard or difficult. I mean, everyone's experienced a change. For my class particularly, this is the first time that we're having a coaching change in the 2 years I've been here. I guess the sophomore class as well. New coaching staff for them. The freshmen it's completely new, but for juniors and sophomores and seniors, I guess, who have been here, it's just going to be different to adapt to the new style. But again, it could also be an opportunity that we get to learn all these different techniques, and it brings a different light, and it can improve just that much more to where that could give us back a point and a half, a tenth. I think that we do have energy vampires on our team, and I am guilty of that occasionally. However, I think what's very important is he pointed out in the book that there is a difference between being negative and not being the hip hip hooray all day, every day. And I think what's important for me to remember is that some days I can't give all the extroverted energy, and that's okay. And I think that's what this book has really shown me, and that's something that I've really taken out from it. Some days I'm just quiet, but that doesn't mean that I'm negative, pessimistic. I can still be positive and doing hard work, and focusing in on my own skill can be focusing in on what I'm doing that day can also be beneficial to the team. If I'm on a certain day, if I am needing to be more reserved, and I try to be that extroverted energy, and my gymnastics is reflecting that it's just not the good quality repetitions, I think that is hurting the team more than if some days if I'm just quiet. But I will work on not being negative in those days, or doing my best to not appear that way. But I think it's also kind of perception, how you perceive it. So I think that's a key point that I took away from the book. Is there a complaining problem on our team? No, not really, but however, it's kind of with you can cry, you have to know the time and the place. Same thing with complaining. You can't expect, we're teenage, young adult girls, we're gonna complain sometimes, but I don't think it's a problem, and I think if it does become a problem, we just need to address it and be like, hey, time and place. And then also in the book it says you're not allowed to complain unless you have a solution to your complaint, so that could also be a way that we could address it. Feed the positive and weed the negative. I think this book is very repetitive, to be honest, but something that was reiterated over and over in the book was just having the honest conversations. And I think feed and weed is that exact thing. If someone's not on board, then you have to have that conversation. And I think in the past we've done kind of slacked on that job and have not been addressing problems, negativity, things like that when they arise, and just letting them kind of draw out during the season. And yes, we had a very successful season, but it could also be better, and that could be a tactic that will make it better in the future. I'd say for communication, we're an 8, and then connectedness, we're maybe a 7. Communication, I don't know. I think sometimes it's good, sometimes it's not, and I think it just depends on the topic. Sometimes it's actually a 10, but sometimes it just gets away from us. Yeah. I'd say our communication and connection is semi-low, because my opinion or interpretation of it is our team is very good at not necessarily pretending, but giving the illusion that we're super connected and that we're super good at communicating, but we're not. I think it's we're not cliquey at all either. I think it's just we just know who we're really close with on the team, and yeah, we interact with the others that we don't, but not all of us are super connected, and I think the illusion of that we give of being super connected kind of filters up through the coaching staff and stuff, and they don't know. It's not necessarily like we don't get in arguments, we don't fight, but I think we could put more effort into being even closer with everyone on the team. I also said that we're not a 10 because kind of back to the thing where we just desire to be liked so much, and we're all kind of people pleasers, and we don't want to disagree with anyone, and so we don't speak up when we feel like something arises that we should speak up about. We just, even if the problem is good or bad, we just don't tell each other the honest truth. And I've been trying to practice that in my personal life. Like if I'm frustrated with someone, I tell them. If I need space, then I tell them. And it's kind of that honest conversation thing. And I think that's kind of the root of everything. And that's kind of the whole message of the book. Having positive conversation, or having honest conversations, can just lead to so much easier anything in the future. So we just aren't fully honest with each other, and too often, or more often than not, we just kind of let frustrations boil under a slide and then pass. So I'm going to try to have more honest conversations with my teammates more often. Obstacles and barriers. How do we remove barriers? Same thing. Our obstacles are that we all are people pleasers, and we all are too afraid to tell people what we honestly feel. And again, it's just missed opportunities when we allow ourselves to not speak up when something could be better for us. And if we each take individual steps to making our experience more positive, I think collectively it will just become more positive. What do you suggest to captains' communications? I think captains just need to be open to listening. Not only just listening and letting it pass, but listening and working to implement what you hear. And when like kind of with criticism, when you come to a team member with criticism, we need to remember our colors and remember how to give information and how a person will receive information based on their colors. And just listening and making sure that if it's a decision where the team is allowed to be involved, that they are. And why is vulnerability important? What does it lead to? In the book, it says that vulnerability leads to a more connected team. I need to really test that out. Vulnerability is something that's very hard for me personally, but I see where he's going with that. But it's also kind of like the time and the place thing. Last year at the retreat, we did do a kind of vulnerability exercise, and I think that did help, but I feel like if maybe we implemented that on a more consistent basis, not necessarily even reminding people of what we said before, just like, again, having those honest conversations. Vulnerability falls right in line with that. But again, like the time and the place, like not right before I meet, probably not, but at the few retreats that we're having, I think once the team all gets here, I think that will help with that. So on the me to we spectrum, my personal opinion, I think maybe we're just over halfway, but I think even halfway is a good balance, because yeah, we need to think about the team, but if we also think about our individual goals and never lose sight of those, that can also filter up to help the team. Not that we should definitely put the team first, but never lose sight of our individual goals, because those go hand in hand. They're so connected that you can't have one without the other, if that makes sense. But also, yeah, we do need to be we first, in a sense that if something we're doing is helping us but not the team, then we need to do that. But if it's helping both me and we, I don't see why we can't have both. Sometimes, not all the time. But yeah, I think the team should more times than not come first. Also with the Sam Peck thing, when we did our, what do you call it? Our hearts chart of if something's gonna give, if something that I do gives me an open heart, by something that someone else does give them an open heart, and that feeds the me first, so we can contribute to the we. I think that's also acceptable. So I think we have to talk about context in this particular situation. But yeah, I think we're, maybe if the line had 0 to 100, I think we're like at 75 from me's over here, we's over here. What 2 things will you do to sacrifice and commit to the team? I just kind of same with that. This quarter I'm not even talking about a gymnastics standpoint. I'm really gonna try to work on my efficiency in my days, more with being better on time management, better with getting assignments done, better, just a better person, being kinder, being nicer, being more understanding, for myself and for the team. Sacrifices, I mean, I think most of all of us make a lot of sacrifices for the team as it is, and I think just one of those things is just all the time that we spend together, and all the time sacrifices that we all put in over the summer, everyone being here and being committed. What are your commitments to the team goals? How do you show? I show faith by telling people we're gonna be there. I hope people receive it. Sometimes people don't always catch my drift when I kind of say under the radar, low key things like, oh, we're gonna be at like not Super 6 anymore. At Final Four, we're gonna win a national championship, stuff like that. During spin, or like when we're doing something really hard, just like, hey, like, we're here, like, we deserve that, like, this is how we're gonna win a national championship. Hopefully this year. Actually, not hopefully, we're gonna win a national championship this year. If you manifest it, then it's gonna come true. We make each other better as a team just by doing what we do every day in practice. Just if one person does something that's super well, the next person's gonna be like, oh, like, I wanna do that better than they did, or I wanna do it just as good, if not better. Just the natural way of pushing in the gym, pushing each other for sticks, lineup spots, improvement, just in any sense, I think we do a good job at that. As it is, personal development, I think, kind of lacks a little bit. Sure, gymnastics, we push each other often, but personal development and fostering growth as a person could also be better. How do we do that? I think just allowing people to learn from their mistakes and not reprimanding them at first, but if it's repeated mistakes, the same mistake, I mean, again, having those honest conversations and coming to someone, but just allowing people to experience personal growth, I think will make the team better. Giving 1% more than you did the day before. To me, I took it as kind of like give your best every day. I don't remember who said this, but someone talked about whatever you have that day, give all of it. If you can only do this much, like make sure that it's quality, make sure that whatever you're doing is going to help you in some way. Because every time I compete, it could be super good or super bad, but I'm always like, man, that could have been better. I could have stuck my dismount. I could have not wibbled on that handstand. I could have, I don't know. I guess with gymnastics specifically, that's what I tend to do after the meet and reflecting on it on my own. And sometimes I even watch it, or I am really happy with my performance in a particular week, and then I compare it to the person that did the best that week, and the gap between us, and compare our events and how the gaps between even with each event. Like Glenn is like, I think Glenn is my biggest competitor for bars. Like, she's just so clean, and it kind of is just like, when I watch her routines, I'm like, wow, I want to be cleaner because she's so clean. Like, or just like things like that. Just seeing my teammates doing something so good, I'm like, wow, mine doesn't look like that yet, but I can get there. So, yeah. What issues need to be addressed? What difficult conversations that need to be had? I think this is more of a in the middle of the season. We don't know. Like right now, it's pretty low stakes. It's pretty relaxed because official practice hasn't even started. And I think this is a conversation or question that needs to be discussed later on when we have the whole team here, when there begins to be possible or not conflict and stuff. I don't think this is a question that can yet be talked about. How did I grow personally from this exercise? I mean, I think reading the book is very beneficial, so everyone's on the same page. From the personal whole document, I think the reflective questions are beneficial, but I don't feel like the kind of did you read the book questions are super useful. I think it's kind of like busy work for those first questions, and it takes away from the meat of the book and really reflecting on what the book means to our team and things. Yeah. How to go? As well as I feel like there's a lot of guided questions, and I feel like in some ways the guided questions kind of prompt you to think about the book in certain ways and kind of take away from how each individual thinks about the book. And I'm not saying that these people can't bring their own opinions to the book, but it kind of gears you to think about it in a certain light, in a certain way. And I think people, like each person on the team has a different perspective of the book and could bring some information that other people didn't think of if it weren't a straight layout and everyone answered the same questions. I think maybe a few questions, like maybe 5 or 6 questions, really talking about this is great, but also leaving room for each person to bring their individual perspective and view on the book could be helpful in showing us things that I may have seen but someone else may have not seen, and vice versa. How can we specifically implement ideas from the book into our action? I had a lot of notes about that in here, but I wrote a lot of notes. But it's mostly things like just implementing what do you call it? Think lens. The hard discussions, implementing hard discussions into practices. Even if we did like it was a piece where it was what can we do this week to make our week successful? What does a successful week look like on Mondays, instead of a quote? And yeah, it would take, like in the book, it used an example of a coach who did that, and yeah, it took away a lot of practice time, but in the end she saw results, and it wasn't even from adding more practice in. So I think if we took 10-15 minutes to sit down at the beginning of practice on Mondays and talked about what a successful week would look like, and I think that could help. And then at the end of the week on Fridays, taking like another 10-15 after practice and saying what made this week successful and how can we carry that over to next week. And then it kind of becomes a loop of it wouldn't be repetitive. I don't kind of it would all connect into a spiral to where like the spiral is going up, if that makes sense, and just connecting one week to another so we're not forgetting what we accomplished last week and what we can do to implement that into the next week. How are you? Oh, I can't see that. How will you incorporate what you learned from the team and culture? I think how we can incorporate it is just, excuse me. How we can incorporate it is just doing what we're doing, but just on a higher level, at a higher expectation. And I think there were a lot of questions in the book about who are we, what do we want to do, what is our culture, what expectations does our culture have, and just laying out all of those possibly at the team retreat will really help keep the vision in focus, but also strengthen our culture, and so everyone knows, and it'll allow us to have I also read this book called How to Say Anything to Anyone, and one of the main points is people feel bad about coming to people with when they disappoint them, etc. And I think and it also said if you don't set expectations before, then it makes it so much harder to come to someone when they break those rules, expectations, etc. And so I think at the retreat, if we lay down these rules and someone breaks them, or someone does well, like we can be like, hey, you're doing a good job at like supporting our culture. But if someone on the flip side is not following these, it'll make it so much easier. Like, hey, we laid these all out before season, and simple fact, like you broke them. And it also said that we should have like guideline, or it said like a protocol for what happens in order for when this happens, so we can address the negative energy that could sabotage our team. So yeah, peace. I'm ready for national championship #1. I don't know if y'all are, but I am, so get ready.